morning. Yeah, this is Friday morning. Again, I'm on a day's holiday. I've got days to take, so rather than taking a week off, I'm just taking Fridays off, which is rather good because it means you're only getting 4-day weeks. So yeah, I've got the house to myself for a few hours. My daughter's at school, my wife's obviously working, so yeah, I thought I'd get the Friday Waffle done and dusted. So yeah, I hope you've all had an alright week. I've just been the usual busy at work. Had the computer club on Wednesday, I think it was, yeah, Wednesday. What did I take along? I took along my Vectrex, which you can see behind me. I didn't bother plugging it in. Yeah, I've been making a few videos about the Vectrex because I was conscious that one of the questions I get asked quite a lot is, what is your favourite system? You know, if there was a fire in the house and you could only rescue one system, what would it be? And it would be the Vectrex. And yet, for all that I love the Vectrex, I very, very rarely actually play it or use it or make any videos. So I thought I need to start using it again. So I did put out the initial Vectrex video. I'm going to start doing a sort of a mashup. I've got all my games up there. Do a kind of main Meister 10-minute mashup of the Vectrex games. But yeah, the computer club was good. It wasn't a big turnout, but it's always good fun. As I keep saying, it's it's my 3 hours a month where I get to regress to being like an 18-year-old again. It's quite a bizarre sort of thing. You go into this. It's in a church hall. We go into the church hall, and you know all the other guys that go there, all we really do is talk about computer games, and that's quite a bizarre thing because when you start working, you get family and kids to look after, you know, you've got all your responsibilities. So being able to just switch off for 3 hours and become a child again, I suppose, you know, or a teenager or whatever, and just talk about video games and play video games is absolutely awesome. So yeah, I don't have a huge amount to talk about. Just very quickly, I just want to touch on Bob Wakelin sadly passing away last week. I mean, I've already put out a little kind of tribute video. I've got a thing called, what have I got a name for it? Just Driving Waffle. I did a little Driving Waffle type thing video. It's just me. I was in the car and I just record myself. So I did a little video kind of talking about you know, the Bob Wakelin stuff, how he really revolutionised the industry. You know, he took it from you know, the early covers that were available for games were really shit, and then Ocean recruited Bob and he just changed the landscape. He made games exciting to look at. But I'll be putting the video out next week so you can watch it. But yeah, it was sad, and you know what, that's the big thing that sucks big style about getting older, is friends and family and people that you know and you care about. We're all getting to, you know, we're starting to die, and that is I just get really upset about that, you know. But unfortunately, it's going to become more and more common. You know, the older you get, then you know, and one day it could be you. So anyway, I'm not going to go getting into a morbid mood, but yeah, I just wanted to, you know, mention Bob. I mean, he's going to be a sad loss. I mean, I know he didn't really do any. I don't think he was sort of putting out any more kind of modern stuff, but he was always a regular at all these gaming conventions, and he was always very open and willing to talk to his fans about how he got into the industry and, you know, his thoughts behind different covers and that. So anyway, yeah, you can have a look at the video that I put out next week. It's just basically called a drive-in ramble, whatever it is, me talking nonsense in the car. Now, one thing that I've maintained when I've been doing the Friday Waffle for as long as I have, I've kind of dried up on the old sort of topic front. I mean, I've got questions there which are great. But a lot of the questions I get asked, and that, you know, that's fantastic. It's generally maybe just a one-word answer, what's your favourite game type thing, rather than topics. So I was trying to think to myself, what can I do here? And I thought, well, why don't I recycle stuff I've spoke about? Because my channel is primarily talking about old stuff, old games, whatever. So whether I talk about it, whether, you know, it's still relevant. I don't really talk about new stuff, so something that I spoke about 3 years ago is technically still relevant because it was old when I did it then. So, you know, and obviously there's been a few more people come onto the channel that's probably never looked at some of the older kind of waffles. But one of my favourite topics to talk about is the age-old problem of piracy, video game piracy. We all did it, you know. I don't care what anybody says. We all did it. It was it helped kind of make, it helped keep this industry buoyant. It got the interest. It kept, you know, the machines. I mean, they reckon that a lot of, like, you know, like the PlayStation and that, they probably sold as many as they did because of the fact that piracy existed. But yeah, in the very early days, I mean, when I first got my C64, I was buying software, you know. I had a lot of part-time jobs. I was buying games quite happily, and it was just, I had a conversation with a guy who was working. I was working part-time in a sort of supermarket place after school, and I got talking to this guy, and we got talking about computers, and he told me he had a Commodore 64, and I'm like, oh, I've got a Commodore 64 as well. And then he mentioned about, you know, he's got all these games, you know, he could give me a copy of them, and I'm like, how does that work? And he says, oh, just copy the tape, and then you can, you know, give you all these games. So anyway, cut a long story short, the guy came up to my house, and we got kind of friendly, and, you know, I started to build up a collection of C64 games, and then I started going to it was a computer club. When would it be, 1984, something like that, and I mean, to call it a computer club is maybe stretching it a wee bit. It was more, it was a piracy club. I mean, I was one of the older people, you know. I was 17, and me and my mate, he had a Spectrum, I had my Commodore 64, and it was I can always remember, it was every Wednesday up at this high school, and I mean, I didn't have a car at that point. I'd passed my driving test, but I didn't have a car. Now, if I was really lucky, my dad would let me borrow his car, but you know, he wasn't overly keen in giving me it, shall we say. But on odd occasion, he did give me the car, which was great, because it was one of these computer clubs where there was basically nothing supplied. You mean, you had to supply your own TV, you had to supply everything. The only thing they supplied was a desk to put the computer on, and you know, somewhere to play the games. But 9 times out of 10, I couldn't get the car, so me and my mate, we had to basically lug. Is that a Scottish word? Lug? Carry the portable TV plus your computer, and all your games and disk drives, whatever. So I used to take this. It was like a case you took on holiday. There's us carrying these big bloody travel cases up to this computer club, and the carry case in one hand, and or a luggage case in one hand, and a 14-inch portable telly in the other, you know, to keep you balanced. But yeah, you get to this computer club, and there was various people went. I mean, it was quite a popular thing. I mean, I says we were the older people. We all had Commodore 64s. Well, my mate had the Spectrum. Then you had the sort of younger kids. They generally had Spectrums, probably because it was their mum and dads were buying it, and they're like, well, no, you're not getting a Commodore 64. I can't afford that. So there was probably more Spectrum owners than anybody. Then you had the Commodore 64 guys. We were generally the slightly older ones. And then I don't think I ever saw a BBC there. And there was always a couple of guys, well, probably just one, and he used to take along his Atari 800. Now that game there, Stealth, I don't know if you can see it. That was a game that he used to have running on it all the time. And I always remember being quite jealous of it. I always thought that looked amazing, you know. There was nothing much on the Atari 800 that I thought was particularly good looking, but this looked amazing, Stealth. So yeah, there's this one guy at the Atari, and he kind of kept himself to himself. I don't recall seeing any other systems. There probably was on the odd occasion, but yeah, it was basically piracy. We'd go along, we'd set up the computers, we would get the games going, and we would copy discs. And I mean, there was a a caretaker guy, janitor, call it what you will, or call him what you will, and he he basically opened the place up, let you in. He probably, I'm saying he probably had no idea what was going on. I don't think, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think he cared what was going on. I mean, he would pop in every now and again. I can still picture him, a wee thin guy with glasses. I wonder whatever happened to him. God, he'll be what? He's probably about 70-year-old now. So yeah, he kind of turned a blind eye to it. Yeah, it was, as I said, it was basically just copying discs, and because we were the older people, you know, we were kind of in charge of the place. You know, I mean, well, like I said, we kept ourselves to ourselves. The Spectrum people, they kept themselves to themselves. There was no real crossover. Because I had a C64, I wasn't interested in, you know, the Spectrum. That's the thing. Nowadays, we've all got these hobbies. I've got Spectrums, Ataris, you name it, I've got it. I'm interested in all systems, and guys watching this video are probably interested in all different systems. But back then, you only had one system. I don't think I knew anybody that had two computers. You just couldn't afford it, you know, simple as that. So you had your system, and that was the one you were interested in. You weren't really interested in anybody else's BBC or Electron or Atari or Amstrad. In fact, I never even saw an Amstrad. I think it was maybe, I was going to say it was before the Amstrad really became a thing. No, I don't know, possibly not. I don't know. But nah, I don't recall ever seeing Amstrad people up there. But yeah, so like I said, we were just real interested in the Commodore 64. The Spectrum owners, they were real interested in their Spectrums, because it was all about copying games. But so that was kind of the early, or sort of mid 80s Commodore 64 piracy. I did befriend, I can't mind how, I think it was a friend of a friend. There was a guy, now I think he was quite a clever guy, quite a clever programmer. He went by the name of the Red Baron in the Amiga circles. That was later on, but he must have had contacts in the States, or I don't know how he got it, but he used to get a hold of software that I had never seen. Now this was kind of before US Gold was a thing, so American software wasn't a thing that we could readily get our hands on. But this guy, his name was John Wallace, I think it was, and yeah, he used to acquire discs of American software, and I kind of got pally with him. And it's funny, the old piracy thing, it was a bizarre thing. You got friendly with people through copying games, but there was always a line in the sand. You never fully became friends with them. It was more about a relationship of convenience. You know, you gave games and you got games back, and it was a fine line. You had to, you couldn't just go to somebody and say, like, can I copy all your discs, and they would let you do it. You had to. It was always about trading. What have you got? Well, I've not got that game, and I can give you this game, sort of thing. So yeah, so this guy John, he had a lot of American software, and in fact I've got another video coming out. I've actually finished it. I might put it out on Monday possibly, and it's basically looking at the very, very, very early American software in the Commodore 64. It says it was before US Gold started up and started to import games, and at that point, the software that was written in the UK, don't get me wrong, there were some great software houses, Lamasoft and Analog Software, a few of the early ones, Activision, but a lot of the other games, the majority of games, were pretty crap. And then through this guy John and other people, I got to be made aware of the stuff that was in America, and it was just like a different quality. I think a big part of it was because a lot of the games for the C64 from America were conversions of the Atari 800 or Atari 8-bit. The Atari 8-bit had been out for quite a long time. I think it came out, I don't know, 1979, something like that. So programmers across there had a chance to really get to know the intricacies and the workings and how to get the best out of the Atari 800. And because the Atari 800 and the C64 share the same processor, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, porting games across was fairly easy. So yeah, like I say, through this guy John, I got to see this American software, stuff like Blue Max and what else? Bruce Lee and Fort Apocalypse, games that just simply were not available in the UK. Not at that point anyway. They did eventually, you know, get released once US Gold sort of started up. So that was my C64. I mean, to let you understand, I had a part-time job, and then later on in 1985, I started working full-time. I bought software all the time. I mean, I would easily have bought a game. I did buy a game every week, so you know, I never ever felt guilty about the piracy thing, because I did buy games, and a lot of the time the games I copied or games I'd never have bought, but I bought plenty. I know a lot of people probably didn't buy games, so I didn't. I had a clear conscience. It was one of these things. So I had, yeah, the C64. I had an equal amount of pirated games and original games. So then eventually the Atari ST, the Atari ST and Amiga became something. The Commodore 64, I sold that, and I bought an Atari ST on hire purchase. Now I had to buy it myself. I was paying, I can't remember how much I was paying, something like 30-40 quid a month for this thing. And again, started buying, you know, you get the brand new system, and started buying games. And the only problem with the games then was the price. You know, a Commodore 64 game, you know, the most you would pay would be like $9.99, and I think for a disc game you maybe paid $14.99. But here was a brand new system, was it 3.5-inch floppy disks, and there were games were like 25, 30, 40 quid possibly, maybe not quite as much as 40. So it was a lot more money. So it was a question. It was a case of buying maybe one game a month. So I would go up to the local computer shop and, you know, make my choice, buy a game. And then me and my mate, he had the Atari ST as well. We decided, I think we saw an advert in, I don't know what it was called, ST Format, one of these magazines. We saw an advert for a copying bit of software called, what was it called? Pro Copy, I think it was called. So we bought this. I think it was maybe 60 quid. It was quite a bit of money back in 1987. So we sent off for this disc, and sure enough, you know, you put your original disc, you loaded up Pro Copy, you'd insert your original disc, it would read all the tracks, you would put in your blank, and it would write it, you know, happy days. So what we did was we would buy a game, we'd buy one game a month between us, and we would take it in turns. So the first month he would pick a game, right, we'll get this one, he would get to keep the game, I would get a copy. The next month we would do the same thing, I would keep the original, he would get the copy sort of thing. So we're quite happy with, you're basically getting 2 games a month, which, you know, for 30 quid, which was fine. So then eventually one of my other mates, Grant, he got a hold of an Atari ST, and he had a contact who had lots of software for the ST. Now the thought of being able to, you know, get more than 2 games a month and not having to pay 30 quid a pop was rather appealing. So we made our acquaintances. Now I've spoken about this before. The guy in question, he was, I mean, we would be 20, 21 years old. This guy, I think, was about 14. But I think my mate knew his sister, sort of thing. So we kind of got friendly with him. And I've got no idea how. Was it, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I think his dad, I think this guy's dad knew somebody who'd got all this software. I think that was how it worked. But anyway, this wee guy had all these games that had never been, you know, never been released in the UK. So we made arrangements to go up to his house one day, and, you know, there was us. I had maybe 15 games, and this wee guy had like 100 games. And it was like getting the keys to a sweet shop. It's like, wow. And of course, you're like, oh, is it okay if I copy that? Yeah. So he was quite happy for us to go up to his house to copy his games. But then eventually, I think he started to think, nah, wait a minute. What am I getting back in return? So we would give him what we had. But 9 times out of 10, he had the games. So it then got to a point where we would say to him, oh, what game have you not got? Oh, I've not got, I don't know, Street Fighter, whatever it was. So we would go and buy the game just as a means of having some bargaining tool. Oh, we've got Street Fighter. But most of the time we'd buy it and then we'd go up to see him and he'd go, I've got that. So right away you had nothing to offer him. So it became a bit of a shit. I mean, it became a wee shite because I mean he knew that we had nothing to give him back, and he had all these games. So what it ended up getting to a point where it sounds terrible now, but we used to take him up to the local sports centre and we'd play pool with him. You'd book a pool table, you'd play pool. So we had to get him buy his friendship. You know, we would play pool with him and he would give us copied games, but eventually he kind of like nah, and that eventually sort of fizzled out, you know. So that was the end of our ST software dried up, and it was pretty much. In fact, I've in between before you know we stopped seeing the wee guy, we all got Amigas. We got Commodore Amigas. I mean, I didn't have my Atari ST for very long. We all got Commodore Amigas, and again, this little guy, he was sort of the supplier. He gave us all these games, but then I says eventually, I think he kind of sussed that, you know, we weren't taking the piss out. I mean, we were, you know, we weren't bad people, but I think he realised that he wasn't getting very much. He wasn't getting anything back in return, really. So he kind of that was knocked on the head. But then the next step up the piracy ladder was when my mate Grant, he told me that there was a place just outside Edinburgh you could buy copied games. Now the place in question is a place called Ingliston Market. Now I've spoken about Ingliston Market before. Apparently in its heyday it was the biggest open air market in Europe. I think it was, certainly in the UK. It was every Sunday. It was an open air market and you could buy anything from hubcaps for a car stereos, pet food, leather jackets. You could buy butcher meat, you name it, you could buy it. You know, I mean, the counterfeit wasn't really a thing back then. But then at this point, this would be what, I don't know, 1989, 1990, something like that. Obviously, piracy was a thing, so there was guys getting into this. They realised they could make a few quid, and so we went along to Ingliston Market one day, and sure enough, there was a stall. Now they were quite brazen about it. They had the trestle table, and all they had on the table was a couple of books with pirated, copied games, lists of games, and you basically thumbed your way through it and thought, oh, that, and that. I think it was like one disc was a £5, 2 discs was £8, something like that. I mean, it was quite expensive when you think about what you were getting. You were getting a copied disc for a £5, but that was quite appealing when you think that you had to pay £30 to the original. So it became a bit of a ritual for us. Every Sunday we would go through. We would get buy, you know, Mega Power, look to see what the latest games were. So me and my mate Grant, we would jump through in the car, and we'd maybe have £20 each. So he would buy a couple of games, I'd buy a couple of games, and we'd go back to each other's houses, copy the games. So you'd get 4 games for, you know, whatever it was, £20. So this went on for a while, and then over the months, they became the piracy stalls became more elaborate. You know, I mean, I think in fact what happened was, I think the police had obviously been given a sort of heads up, so they turned up, and you know, you can't sell pirated games. So the pirates themselves became a bit cleverer. Rather than having the manuals on the table, they had maybe half a dozen original games. Usually old games that nobody was interested in, boxed games sitting on the table to try and look authentic and respectable. And what you would do is you would just go up and you'd say to the guy, "What have you got, mate?" And the guy would go underneath the counter and hand you this book with the list of the games. the most recent ones were in the bottom, and so that's how it worked. Then it evolved. I mean, the funny thing was, I remember the guy in particular who actually owned the stall. He was called Brian, and he had a beard not too much unlike myself, and he was quite a scary guy. I mean, you could just tell that he was the kind of guy you would. I mean, I would be what, 22, 23 years old. Brian was probably in his 40s. And you could tell that it wasn't the kind of guy that you would want to mess. You wouldn't want to mess with him. But we got to kind of know Brian, and we got quite friendly with him. But he never did you a deal. He'd never say, "Oh, there's a free game," or that. You still had to pay your money. And then over the period, as his business started to blossom, he brought on his. He had two sons. There was Brian Jr. and there was another guy there, so he had his two sons. And then later on, he even brought his daughter in. Now, I always remember his daughter was damned hot. I was like, wow. I really had a thing for her, but my goodness, you wouldn't... you were never going to try it on, because Brian was always there. But yeah, I always remember thinking, she is gorgeous, really, really nice. And I used to think to myself, why are you doing this? But yeah, like I said, over the period, it became more and more kind of advanced. So it got to a point where, rather than standing at the front reading the book, they introduced a passage system. It's not what you think. Basically, there was a tarpaulin, and you had to pull back the tarpaulin, and you went in at the back, and you were basically standing under cover. And you went through the back, and there you are, standing in a group of people waiting your turn to get served. And what they did was, they would actually copy the discs. They did it on demand, so you would say, I want a copy Sensei Soccer, a copy Cannon Fodder, and a copy Lotus Turbo. And you would hand over the money, and they would burn the discs there and then. But then that changed again, because the police got involved, and they confiscated all the software. But within a week, they were back again. It got to a point where what they'd do is, they had all the copied games in the car, and you would it was before mobile phones was a thing. They had like little walkie-talkies, and you would give your order. He would then radio to the guy at the car, right, I need 2 copies of that and 1 copy of that, and the guy would bring the discs, and you would kind of hand the money over. It was all very cloak and dagger. And then, of course, that was Amiga. Then when the PC became a thing, there was all these CDs that appeared. You had things like Mr. Blobby, and it was all these hacker groups. And to this day, I never understood how they managed to do it. They must have had, it was like, I suppose it was like the very early internet. It was like bulletin boards, and there were companies, there was hackers, pirates putting up all these games and software, and these guys were able to download and put them onto a CD. So you bought like a Mr. Blobby. Mr. Blobby was this really annoying character out of a Saturday Night TV, but this is what they called the name. You bought this Blobby CD, and it basically had, you put it in your CD, into your PC, and it had a menu, and it would come up with all, you maybe got like 50 games. I mean, it was incredible. I think the disc, I can't remember how much a CD was. I mean, CDs back then were still quite expensive. It was maybe, I don't know, a couple of quid for a CD. So you maybe paid, I don't know, was it a tenner, a fiver, a tenner for a CD? Certainly in the early days they were expensive, then they kind of came down. But yeah, you bought a couple of these pirate CDs, and you were going home with like 50 new games. It was just insane. They'd all been cracked and compressed, and I mean, it was clever. What these guys were doing was very, very, I don't mean the guys selling them, I mean the guys like who made actually made the discs themselves. Very, very clever. So yeah, the Amiga disappeared, and then it just became, it was PC, that's all it was. And yeah, I used to go along and buy my discs. And then when the Sony PlayStation came along, I mean, it was probably, I reckon it was a matter of months. I mean, I bought my Sony PlayStation from Toys R Us. I got Destruction Derby, I think it was, with it. paid about, it was about 300 quid for it. Within a few months, my mate Grant, he always seemed to have his ear to the ground with things like this. He told me that you could get a chip fitted to your PlayStation which would let you play copied games. Now again, you need to understand, this was what would this be, 1994, 1995 I think it was. And the PlayStation had just been released. You know, it was amazing. We were all in absolute awe of what it could do. And yeah, games were 40 quid. And suddenly here was this opening to be able to get games for like not very much money. So me and my mate, we drove through on his motorbike actually. We drove through a place called the Barras, which is in Glasgow. And again, it's a market. It's a kind of partly open air, partly inside market. It's been going for I don't know how long, probably the 50s, possibly before that. But like Ingliston Market, you know, I mean, it sold food and clothes, but then, you know, with the sort of the introduction of computers, it became basically a counterfeit place. I mean, your DVDs and music CDs and that kind of stuff. So we went through to the Barras, and I mean, I can always remember handing over my 2-month-old 300 quid PlayStation to a complete stranger, and he told me, right, it's going to take an hour, come back at 1 o'clock. So we left the PlayStations with them. I mean, the guys could have just buggered off and we wouldn't have had a leg to stand on. And we went away, came back, and there you go. The thing is, it was a strange thing because the guys were friendly enough, but they were never never very talkative. You know, I think obviously they knew what they were doing was illegal. They knew that we knew what they were doing was illegal. So talking was kept at a kind of minimum. So anyway, we got the PlayStations, you know, true to their word. I think it was 80 quid to get it done. Drove back through the motorbikes, and lo and behold, yeah, we also bought a couple of copied games. I can't remember. I think I got Ridge Racer actually. Got a couple of copied games, and this was phenomenal. Wow, we had this brand new PlayStation, and we could also play copied games in it. But then over the next few years, absolutely everybody in their auntie had chipped PlayStations. I mean, it got to a point, I mean, there was people at work doing them, and you know, for 5 quid. Apparently it was very easy. It was only a couple of wires or something. I mean, I couldn't do it. Even now I couldn't do it. But you know, apparently for somebody with a modicum of soldering experience, they could probably do it. So it got to a point where everybody had a chip PlayStation, and places like Ingliston Market, they just became completely awash with piracy stalls. And I always remember kind of feeling quite disgusted because you'd go there and there would be people like my mum's age selling pirated PlayStation games. It just felt wrong. I'm like, no, this is illegal. It didn't bother me because I was like young. You know, it didn't bother me. I could get away with it because I was a young guy. But seeing like old women selling pirated software just seemed wrong to me, you know. But yeah, so that was massive. But then ultimately, Ingliston Market and the piracy scene, it eventually disappeared when broadband came out, because then you could go and download your own stuff. But yeah, I mean, do I regret piracy? Not really. I mean, I've spent, and I do now, I spent a lot of money on games. I really did. And a lot of the time, yeah, it was you were buying pirated games that you really had no interest in, but because you could get it for a fiver, you bought it. And I know, you know, a lot of people say, well, I wouldn't have, I'm buying games that I wouldn't normally have bought, so I'm not actually depriving the manufacturer of any money. And that's true. I mean, a lot of the games that I got pirated, or I mean, I never pirated them myself, but bought from pirates, I wouldn't have played. And to this day, I mean, I used to give people copied games. To this day, I have never, and I would never ever sell software. You know, I was always there against that. Never ever do that. And that's why when I see these people selling Raspberry Pis with RetroPie on it, which is free software, and they're bundling all these ROMs and that kind of stuff with it and charging lots of money, that's why I get real upset. But Anyway, that is my piracy story. What I'm going to do is, I did have me and my some chums talk pish, was it last year, with one of my mates, Alan, and we basically talked about piracy. So I'll put a wee link up there. You can go and watch that. We basically talk about piracy. A lot of what I've just spoke about there, I was talking about in that video as well. But yeah, go and check it out. Right, before I start with the questions, some of you might have caught my live stream that I did last Saturday. Now, one of my watchers, is it Neil? I think it is. Neil asked me last Waffle, was it? I think he says he'd seen a couple of my live streams, or I think he'd seen it after I'd recorded it, and would I think about doing another one? Now, as I've mentioned before, guys, I mean, I enjoy doing the live streams. I've done two, you know, prior. The problem I've got is my PC is downstairs in the living room, and my wife's watching TV, so I can't really talk on the PC when she's there. I'm at work during the day, she's at work during the day, so you know, at night time when she's there, I can't use it. Previously, my wife had a different job where she would work the occasional Saturday or Sunday, which meant I could get access to the computer, which was fine. But last weekend, she mentioned, was it on Friday night? No, it was on the Saturday morning. She said, I'm going out. And I went, all right, okay. So I thought, stuff it, I'm going to do a live stream. So I put out a little video just saying, look, I'm going to be doing this at 7:30 on Saturday. And yeah, so it went ahead. And I mean, I must admit, because it was kind of so short notice, I thought to myself, I'll be lucky if I get half a dozen people tuning in. You know, and I would completely understand that. It's a Saturday night. But I've got to say, I don't think it dropped within about 10 minutes. I think I was up to about 30 people watching it. And I mean, I think it got to 44 people, which doesn't sound like a lot of people. But when you think about, if you put 44 people in a room, that's quite a busy room. And the fact that there were 44 people watching me playing video games on a Saturday night, it was quite insane. And but I thought to myself, yeah, if I can get half an hour, maybe an hour tops out of it, I'll be doing well. But it got to a point, it was just under 3 hours, and I think we still had 30 people on watching it at that point. I ended up saying, look, I need to call it a day, you know. So I did, but absolutely, you know, it was brilliant fun. Thanks to everybody that tuned in. You know, it's great fun, and it's a bizarre thing because when you first kind of start talking, it can be quite nerve-wracking because I mean I'm talking to you right now, but I'm recording it. Obviously, I've pre-recorded this. But when you're talking live, it's like you're on the radio. That's exactly what it is. It's like being on the radio, albeit to a smaller audience, you know, far, far smaller audience. But after 5 minutes of playing games, whatever, it's really, really good fun. I really enjoy it. But one of the guys, I think it was Jamie, said to me, came up with quite a good idea. What I normally do when I do live streams is I just say to you, right, what game do you want me to play? And you've got the chat thing at the sides, and somebody will say, oh, play this or play that, and what I've got to do is I'll play a game, then I've got to scroll right to the top and oh, I've done that one and look for another game. But what Jamie suggested, I think I'll do that the next live stream that I do, when I put out the little sort of, you know, letting you guys know that I'm going to be doing a live stream. I'm going to ask for games in advance, and I think that'll work better for two ways. One, I'll have the list in front of me what I'm playing, so I'm not having to stop and look through a list and try and find stuff. I'll have the list already. Secondly, it means that there might be somebody who wants to see me playing a game who can't tune into the live stream. So if they ask me to play a game, they know that they can go in next Tuesday and watch me playing it. So that's what I'm going to do. It's not something that I would do on a regular basis. I think it would become boring for the viewer if I was doing it all the time. But certainly I'm going to get another one planned in the next maybe month or so, because it is really good fun. It's great being able to interact. In fact, another thing, I completely forgot about that actually. Can't remember who it was. Somebody says, would I think about doing a sort of a live question and answer video. Now what I said was, well, the Friday Waffle is kind of my question and answer thing. I mean, you guys ask me questions here, but you know, what I'll do is I'll put out a wee. I'll ask you, you know. In fact, you can even let me know just now. If I was to schedule in a question and answer thing, would you be interested? Do you think it would be something that would work? Do you think you would tune in? You know, the danger you've got with doing live things is it could all go horribly pear-shaped. You could look an absolute tit, basically, if you're doing a live stream and there's like one person. So yeah, it could all go horribly wrong. But what you do, let me know. And another thing as well is that the reason I'd never thought about doing that before is, apart from getting asked questions in the waffle, is it sounds slightly presumptuous that you think that people are going to want to ask you questions, but if you do, let me know. If there's enough people that think, yeah, that would be quite good fun. It's just a pity you couldn't get it more interactive with other people joining in, because obviously it's just me. Obviously, if I'm doing the live question answer thing, I'll have the camera on my face. Whereas obviously when I'm playing the games, it's just the game sort of thing. But let me know if you think the question and answer thing would be something you'd want to see. Stick a wee comment down below, guys. Let me know if you think it would work. So, aye, I think, yeah, that's that. So anyway, listen, this is going to kind of drag on a bit, this waffle. So I'm just going to start the questions. Right, first off, Batman. What was the first game you ever bought? You know, it's up there, and I'm not going to bother letting you see it because it's stuck to the wall. The first game I ever bought is called Crazy Kong. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here it's here. Crazy Kong by Interceptor Software. It was a... Well, I actually bought two games. I bought that and I bought Frogger 64, which I've also got up in the wall there. It's across there. Both by Interceptor Software. And Crazy Kong is, as you can imagine, it's a clone of Donkey Kong, and it is absolutely god awful. I'll put a wee link up there. It's I think I featured it in Is This Possibly One of the Worst Games Ever? It's an atrocious Donkey Kong clone game. Terrible. And I even remember thinking it was terrible back in 1983. I'm like, this is shit. You know, it's seriously bad, but you know, that's the way it was back then. And that's why when I got to play games like Fort Apocalypse, it was like night and day. It really was. Do you still own it? I do indeed. Now, sadly, the original, one of my mates back then actually borrowed both the games from me, and he took them back to the shop and got money back for them and kept the money. So he's not my pal anymore. But so these are not the originals that I bought, but they're originals if you know what I mean. But they're not the actual ones. But yeah, they're stuck to my wall. Do you still play it occasionally? Well, I play Crazy Kong occasionally when I'm making videos. It's not a game I would choose to play. Frogger's actually quite a good... I did feature it in the Frogger thing that I made recently. But yeah, one good game, one absolutely god awful. But thanks for the question, but next up is Panther UK. Excuse me. What's the one item you've sold that you regret but have yet to recapture? The one thing that I did sell and I did get back is my NVIDIA Shield Portable. I remember selling it because I had the GPDXD, and then I kind of regretted selling it because the GPXD stopped working. And I'm like, dang it. But you're not asking that. You're asking something that I've sold that I wish I hadn't sold. There's a game called Protector on the Vectrex. It came out, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, maybe not quite as much as that, 8 years ago. And it was a homebrew game. It's basically Defender. And it was like all these homebrew games, they're made in very, very small supply numbers. And I think there was 100 made, and I was lucky enough to buy one. It came with the overlay, a thing of beauty. The box itself was really pretty looking. But the game is fiendishly difficult. Really, really difficult. So I never really played it. and I can't remember what it was, maybe 3-4 years ago, I was wanting to buy something, I can't remember what it was, and I didn't have much money, and I thought, I could maybe sell that. So I went online, had a look, and it was going for about 200 quid. So I put it on eBay and it sold. I think I made maybe just slightly more than £200. And yeah, do I regret selling it? Probably. I think I do. And that's why there's that's why I generally try and not sell stuff, because I know that the money you get for it is going to be short-lived. You know, it might disappear quite quick, and then you might end up regretting it. I have been selling a few bits and pieces, stuff that I simply don't use, and I mean, so I'm very, very careful now about selling stuff. The only other thing that I did sell, and I'm kind of like, was I've started collecting all these LCD handheld games. I started collecting them about maybe 4 years ago, and they weren't really that big a thing, so I was getting them for good prices. I mean, I'm talking about things like your Astro Wars and your Galaxy Invaders and all your grandstand games, and I ended up with about 30 of them. But the problem is, I didn't have anywhere to put them, so they ended up in the loft. They ended up in a box in the loft. Now, to be fair, these things, they're novelty. It's nice to have them, but when you actually play them, you realise they're pretty shit. Let's be honest, they're pretty shit. Even stuff like Astro Wars, you wouldn't want to play it for any more than 5 minutes. So from a user point of view, it didn't really bother me. But we were up in the loft, and then when I wanted to, I don't know if you can see this, my MAME cab. I was wanting a MAME cab, and it was going to cost me, I think it was like 400 quid, and I thought, where am I going to get the money from? And I thought, wait a minute, I've got all these games up there. So I dug them out and I put them on, it was Gumtree, and I think I got just over £200 for all of them. Now, I do know that they go for way more now. It's like anything now, retro gaming wise, goes for silly money. You just really can't get bargains anymore now. People think that everything is worth a fortune. So that collection now, probably if I was to try and pick up all these games again, it would probably cost £500. It probably cost double what I paid. I do sometimes regret. I don't regret selling them, but I sometimes wish I still had them. Does that make sense? I know I couldn't use them, so I don't regret getting rid of them, but I do miss them, if that's probably the best way to put it. You know, it'd be nice to be able to bring it down and have a play with it, but yeah, that's probably the one thing that I did sell that I wish I'd kept, and the same with Protector and the Vectrex. But thanks, Chris, I appreciate your question. Next up is Bob MC. What do you feel was the best arcade conversion for a machine not particularly suited to running it? An ambitious project that came off beautifully, if you like. For me, something like Space Harrier should have been nigh on impossible to do on a Spectrum, yet they did it wonderfully. As you're the man behind Arcade Perfect My Arse, I could think of no one better to answer that question. That's very kind of you, Bob. I don't quite know if the last part's true right enough, but good arcade conversions that should never have worked. Buggy Boy on the Commodore 64 is an insanely playable game. They deliberately didn't try and replicate the graphics from the arcade. They looked at what was the appeal of the actual game. Then they looked at the hardware on the C64 and they realised it couldn't do big 3D graphics. So they took the essence and the playability and the feel of the game and they made their own version. So Buggy Boy on the Commodore 64 is excellent. But it's not really pushing it as such because, you know, they watered down the graphics, but they turned it into a really, really playable game. I mean, the obvious one, excuse me, which everybody talks about, and I've got to say it is phenomenal, and it's Chase HQ on both the Amstrad and the Spectrum. Now, I was actually playing it on the Spectrum last week. Got my little Spectrum down below, and it's an insane game. How they've managed to get the game to run as well as it does on a Spectrum, I'll never know. I mean, I was playing the 128 version, and it's even got speech as well. I mean, it's apart from the colour, you know, yeah, it's black and white, but Chase HQ on the Spectrum, I would probably say, you know, I've never really played it in Amstrad, to be fair, but certainly going by my experiences of the Spectrum one, it's probably the most impressive arcade conversion I've ever seen. When you consider what game it is and you consider the hardware it's running on, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. But then other conversions, I mean, R-Type seems to be a game that converted really well to everything. I don't think I've ever played a bad R-Type. You've got, like, I mean, on the Amiga, it's arcade, well, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's arcade perfect. PC Engine, it's just phenomenal. So yeah, R-Type was a game that converted beautifully, even at the Commodore 64, the Spectrum, every version, Game Boy as well has got a really good R-Type. So R-Type was one of them that converted well. Space Harrier, as you see, the Spectrum, apart from the colour, is stupidly impressive. I did play it a lot in the C64. It was alright, I wasn't a massive fan of it. Another game which has completely escaped me. What was I talking about? Space Harrier. Yeah, Power Drift. Power Drift on the Commodore 64 is really, really playable. And again, it's a game that should never have even been attempted. And it plays really well. The graphics are excellent. The big, really well defined. That's good. And like Gauntlet as well. Gauntlet's another game that I don't think should have worked. But again, the versions, even on the, I mean, I played the Commodore 64 one to death. Great game, really, really good. But I'm trying to think, I mean, like Rodland on the Amiga and the Commodore 64 is wonderful. But I think as far as impressive goes, it's got to be Chase HQ on the Spectrum. It's just a phenomenal piece of coding. But yeah, thanks for the question, Bob. And Kev, down the rabbit hole, Lawn Boy's post was having a go at a Sailor Moon game, and it made me wonder if you would ever feel embarrassed playing a girly game like that. Sorry, Kev, you know, I should really read your questions beforehand, because a lot of the questions you ask me are kind of based on current news now. I generally don't pay attention to news, gaming news. I'm not even aware of Sailor Moon, a girly game. What is the sort of the subject matter of the game? If it's a game where you play as a girl, well, Tomb Raider, that wouldn't really bother me. You know what? See, at the end of the day, a game's a game. A game is for fun. If it's a girly game, I mean, what is a girly game? You know, if it's a game about putting makeup on and false nails on, nah, you can count me out of that. But you know, a game's a game. If a game is fun, then I would certainly play it. But again, sorry, Kev, I'm not really. Like I said, I should maybe do a wee bit of research with some of your questions, because they are generally current stuff, and I tend not to pay too much attention to what's going on. Secondly, I'm looking for games that really push the hardware. That's interesting, we're talking about it up there, of the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Can you suggest any games that really push the Commodore 64 that pushed the Game Boy hardware? I mean, again, like R-Type, there's R-Type, a game that even to this day always impresses me. I don't know whether you'd say it's pushing the hardware, but Double Dragon on the Game Boy, it's just amazing. It's amazing. It's really dinky wee graphics, but it really, really looks like the arcade one. In fact, I'd probably say it's one of the best looking conversions of Double Dragon. I mean, Double Dragon on the 8-bit and 16-bit, they weren't the greatest, but Double Dragon on the Game Boy is good. Game Boy Color, I only had a Game Boy Color for a matter of months. I gave it away actually. I just never really played it. So the Game Boy Color's not a system that I've got any real awareness of. But yeah, Double Dragon on the Game Boy is excellent. I mean, there's loads of amazing games. And playing the Game Boy games now on more modern hardware, you get to really see the graphics, because the original screen blurred when you moved, so you weren't really getting to see the game as well as it looked. And like I said, playing it on backlit systems now, you really get to see it. But I can't think of any other. I mean, there's tons and tons of great games, Kev. But I mean, driving games. Was there any really good driving games? I can't think of any offhand. No, actually, go and check out Double Dragon. I think there was sequels. I think there was definitely sequels to it as well. But certainly the first one, I was always super impressed with that one. And finally, yet another side-scrolling game has been announced for PSVR called Pop-Up Pilgrims. And just like bloody zombies before it, I am wondering why non-immersive games like this are coming to VR. What does VR bring to a side-scrolling beat-em-up or platformer? Is that right, Kev? I wasn't really aware of that. Yeah, I mean, my PSVR's sitting there. I like having a PSVR. It doesn't get used that often. I still stand by what I think about VR. It's until they come up with a system that isn't stuck to your face, because when you put that on, I mean, for starters, I know you can there's the band that goes around the back of your head. It's got an elastic band in it, so you pull it and then it kind of clamps to your head. It's just really, really, really tight, and I actually end up getting a bit of a sore head with it. It's quite uncomfortable to wear. So until they come up with a VR system that maybe doesn't require glasses, whatever, it's never ever going to become my standard way to play games. You know, and I don't mind putting it on if I'm going to play some kind of immersive game or whatever, but I'm absolutely not going to put a headset on to play a side-scrolling game. I mean, I don't know, are they going to make it look sort of like 3D, like Little Big Planet? You're looking at it, but you can see further into the, you know, it's going to give a depth of sort of a field of depth, I should say. If that's all it's going to do, I don't think I would really be. I think there's sometimes they try and make games VR for the sake of it, whereas it doesn't really add anything to the experience. And if anything, having to wear that for half an hour, that's more than plenty. So I don't really get the why they would do side-scrolling games in VR. I certainly wouldn't buy it anyway. But if you do get it, Kev, let me know what you think of it. And as usual, thank you very much for the questions. And Mr. Hunter, of all the software houses that went bust or sold out during the 1980s, which one would you like to see reopen tomorrow? Software houses that went bust. What would be my favourite software house? I mean, quite a few. Sensible Software. They made awesome games. Now I know John Hare's making a game called Sociable Soccer through a new company, but Sensible Software were awesome. There was virtually not a bad game that they brought out. I mean, one of my favourite 8-bit software houses was TaskSet. They made Pipeline 2. They were a great outfit. I mean, stuff like Ocean. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, there was lots of good software houses back in the 80s. But would they be putting out good content now? I mean, Activision's still going. I think they make all the Call of Duty games. But I think, yeah, I'm going to go for Sensible Software. You know, these guys were uber creative. They just put out some amazing games, and I'd love to see what they could do with a big budget on the PlayStation 4. But sadly, I don't think you're ever going to see that, because these games, these sort of new, excuse me, system games, they require tens of thousands of man-hour work, and they've probably got £1 million budgets. So you're never going to see that. But yeah, I'd like to have seen Sensible Software. But I have got the beta of Sociable Soccer, and it's pretty good. So watch this space. Hope your Spectrum's still going well, Ian. Still enjoying it. And lastly, Craig Wilson, which 8-bit, 16-bit Sega games would you like to see a straight remake or reimagining? Now, I've never really been a big fan of remaking games. I don't really. The games that I like are the real early games. Now, I did mention, I was asked a similar question before, and it was on the Commodore 64. And what did I say? I think I said was it Way of the Exploding Fist, Rocket Ball, and Whizball, I think it was. As far as 8-bit, I mean, I was never an 8-bit fan. I wasn't a fan of the Master System. So 16-bit. So you're talking about Mega Drive games. I mean, they've brought out. I did buy the new Sonic the Hedgehog, which is nice. I mean, what they've done it really well. They've taken the essence of the original Sonic the Hedgehog, and rather than giving it a complete remake, they've supercharged it. They've just made it run. They've made it run at 60 frames a second. They've added a bit more colour. They've made the graphics that wee bit nicer. They've done it proud. They really have. It looks amazing. It plays amazing. So that is an excellent one. Is there any other games that I would like to see? I'm not a big fan of the Mega Drive. I mean, I like the Mega Drive, but because I didn't own one back in the day. Again, I don't have any real sort of nostalgia for it. No, but like I said, the Sonic one is excellent. It wasn't too expensive to buy. I've got it on the Switch. It's really, really nice, but I can't think of any other. I mean, if I was going to talk about arcade games, I would love to see somebody bring out, or Sega bring out, a revamped Outrun for the PlayStation 4. Power Drift, you know, all the classic games. I know you can get them on like the 3DS, but I want to play them on the big screen like they were designed. So yeah, it would be great to see the classic sprite scaling arcade games like Outrun and Power Drift, being able to play them properly but enhanced, you know, for the PS4. That would be excellent. Yeah. So anyway, Craig, thank you. Thanks to everybody for the questions as always. Thanks to everybody that's joined the channel. I'm almost at 1800 subs, which is fantastic. I kind of stuck. I was stuck at just under 1700 for a while, but it seems to be kind of creeping up. I seem to pick up maybe 2 or 3 subs every day, which is good. It's good. The subs doesn't bother me. I mean, but it's an indication, you could say, of that more people are watching the channel. Like I said, I always appreciate all the feedback, the comments you give me, asking the questions and that kind of stuff. Remember, let me know about the question and answer thing if you want. If you think that would be something that would work, let me know. And finally, I mean, I'll be mentioning it next week. I'm going to Blackpool, and I'm delighted to say my mate Steve, who runs Retro and Lim, was telling me that Ashens is going to be going. Stuart Ashens. Now, if you don't know who Stuart Ashens is, then where have you been? Stuart Ashens was probably the first YouTuber that I started watching. He's kind of a professional actor, comedian. I mean, he's really good. You know, he's excellent. But he's going along now. He is pals with Steve, so with any luck, I'll get to meet the great man. I'll probably be like a gibbering jelly if I get to talk to him. I'll probably be quite nervous actually. But I believe that Stuart's a top guy. But it'd be nice to get a photograph with him. So, but yeah, Blackpool. It's on the 10th I think it is, of February. I'm going down there. I'm going down with 2 mates, my daughter and her boyfriend. I'm just going down this Saturday. Unfortunately, Stuart Ashens is doing his talking this Sunday, so I won't see him then. But hopefully he'll be there on this Saturday and I can catch up with him. But yeah, I'm going down to Blackpool, driving down in the morning, coming back the same day. If you happen to be going to Blackpool, let me know. If you see me, come up and say hello. It'd be nice to catch up with you guys. So anyway, this one has gone on quite enough. I'm going to go and lie down, or I might go and have a cup of tea, then I'll go for a sleep, I think. Have an excellent weekend, guys. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching.